Hey guys, Darren Asbury here with Revital Outdoors, bringing you another exciting winning podcast tonight. Tonight we have Mr. Rob Branagh. He just won the MLF Toyota Series event on Lake Okeechobee, so we're very honored to have him on our podcast. We're going to talk about his tournament and how he had his last day comeback. He went from 7th to winning the tournament. Heck of a comeback on the final day on Lake Okeechobee. Lake Okeechobee was fishing really tough this year, so we're excited to talk to him. Real quick, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, and so that you get notified when all of our content is dropping. And then make sure you check us out on all of our social media platforms. That's going to be Facebook and Instagram. And then if you've never heard of Revital Outdoors, we're a premium CBD company. We're made right here in America, and we're THC free. Our products are really great for all the outdoor enthusiasts out there. So make sure you check out our website, www.revitaloutdoors.com. You can find all of the information on our products, and you can also order from our website as well. But let's get right into it. I'm very excited for this one. Straight out of his Okeechobee win with the Toyota Series, Mr. Rob Branagh. Man, thanks for coming on this evening.
Absolutely. I appreciate y'all inviting me on.
Absolutely. So, man, let's just get right into it. I mean, how's this week been? I mean, you win a tournament like that. How crazy has it been?
It's been crazy, man. I mean, I got people out there that I didn't even know who they were until this past week. They didn't know who I was till this past week. And, I grew up in a professional motocross atmosphere, and I've won a lot of big titles racing motocross, but this one right here, nothing compares to this one for sure.
Right. So was this your first major win?
This was a major win. I came real close in the ABA National Championship on Louisiana Red River. Lost that one by 4 ounces, and I thought that was going to happen here in this one as well.
I hear you. So, well, talk to us about Lake Okeechobee. First of all, what was your experience on Okeechobee prior to the tournament? And then, how did you approach practice, and what were you able to kind of figure out that other people really didn't?
So I fish Okeechobee at least once a month. I've been fishing there for probably 40 years on and off with my father brought me up bass fishing. And I knew the way the lake fished that, number one, the water being high had a lot to do with the pattern I put into play. And then the cold weather was a big deal. And I knew that the fish were trying to move in, but they were waiting for that warm weather. And it was kind of really a Russian roulette on whether I was going to be on the big bite or the guys that were bed fishing were going to smash them. It really was.
Absolutely. Leading up to that tournament, Florida, someone turned on the cold outside, and, we haven't had a cold winter at all. And then there's a tournament coming into town, and then boom, it gets cold, like really cold.
Really cold. Yeah. These Florida fish, 5-degree water temp change really puts them into a lockjaw position. It really does. And I've noticed that, they'll still hit a moving bait, but you really need to slow it down and downsize the bait. And that's a critical decision that I made during the week when that cold front first hit was, number one, slowing my presentation down and going to a much smaller bait and getting into some real shallow water, actually with a mud bottom instead of a sand bottom, because I knew that water was going to warm up a lot faster than the hard bottom, and it paid off. I mean, I was fishing an area that I had a lot of bites. My goal going in was to finish in the top 25. I wanted to fish Saturday real bad. And that's pretty much the goal I put into play every time I enter a tournament.
Okay. Cool.
So day one was a deal where I knew, I needed to be in an area where I could get 5 bites, and I wasn't my chances of getting 5 bites with 40, 50 boats bumper to bumper was going to be very, very slim. So I concentrated on some water away from everybody else.
Mm-hmm. I got you. So
a big key.
Were you making a long run?
I made probably an 8-minute run every day.
Okay. Break it down to like the fish that you found in practice. And I mean, obviously at that point you didn't know you could win, but what was something that was there a pattern you put together? Or was it just an area and you were just casting and staying in that area? Or was there something that you found that the fish were relating to, such as a specific grass, maybe dollar pads, or, the hyacinths or whatever? What was it that you found that was like, okay, I need to run this?
So in the past, when the water gets cold, I've done really well, and it seems that the Florida fish really relate to anything that's kind of decaying cattails, decaying wood, anything that's kind of decayed. You can still see it in the surface of the water, but it's decayed. It's not fully dead. It's not laid over. It's not floating but it's dying off. And I don't know if that holds more oxygen or a little more heat. I believe it holds a little more heat. And that was the big key. I looked for that kind of water. I found actually 4 areas of that kind of water. I only ended up fishing 2 of them because I just kept getting more bites, which about every 3 hours that went by, it seemed like the bite got bigger. So I stuck with that big bopper by Net Baits. And it's a small reaction bait. It's a small speed worm. I actually went down to an 1/8 ounce weight, which I normally throw it on a 3/16 to slow the retrieval down. And it was kind of tricky. You had to keep it out of that mud, but you had to get it down in the mud. So you had to kind of just get the right retrieval where that bait was barely bouncing off that bottom of them dead stalks, and that's when they would hit it.
Okay. Did you think you were catching any pre-spawn fish, or they were just in that area because they were looking for the warmer water?
I believe they were in that area looking for the warm water. I caught a lot of bucks, and I did catch some females that I think were just kind of passing through. On day 1, I had a 15-10, and I probably caught 30, 35 keepers that day. So I knew I had to go back to that area. There was other boats in the area with me, but they were coming in and moving out. They weren't catching the fish that I was catching. So when we got to day 2, I ran the same pattern. I pulled in there, and the bite was on as soon as I pulled in there. I was boat 212 on day 2, so I was kind of worried there was going to be even more traffic in there. But I got in there, and there was a couple of boats in there. But the same thing happened. I was catching a lot of fish, not a lot of quality, but I was catching keepers. I probably put a limit. Me and the co-angler probably had a limit in the box by 8:45.
Holy cow! Wow.
For about 12 pounds. And I stuck it out because the day before, around 11, when it heated up, the bite got better, and it did that day as well.
That's what I noticed on day 1. Not so much day 2, but day 1, the bags, the anglers that had the weight were in that later flight. From 4:30 till 5, there was 3 flights in there, and they caught them. I mean, they caught them really good.
Yeah, I think at the end of day 1, I was in 13th, and I was an early flight, and I was worried I was going to drop like a rock because I knew those guys that were bedfish, and that later bite was going to turn on for sure. And that was kind of my Russian roulette. Was the whole tournament was, do I go fish bedding fish? Are they going to move in by Saturday, or do I take a chance on just going where I know I can get bit and put a limit in the box and play it that way? And I chose the right decision.
It worked out for you. So when you left the dock on day 1, how many rods did you have on the deck?
I had 4 rods on the deck. I had a flipping bait, of course. I had a popping frog. I had a chatterbait, and I had the rod with the halo with the big bopper on it, the net bait big bopper.
Okay, so the net bait big bopper, did that really take you throughout the whole tournament? That's what your keepers came on?
I caught every single solitary fish except for one on a popping frog on day 1. Every fish that went to that scale was on the big bopper.
Okay, and I'm assuming a June bug color pattern.
Okeechobee crawl.
Okeechobee crawl. There you go. They call it that for a reason, and it works. Honestly, it works around the country, but it definitely works. And especially the weather. It was cold leading up to the event. It was also windy, but then the event happened. Dead slick, calm, sunny. Just you could not buy a breath of wind the first 2 days of the tournament.
That's correct, and that's another thing that came into play during my practice is I knew the wind was going to switch. Right. And, the weatherman will say 30% and we'll get wet. The weatherman will say 70% and we'll be dry. So, but I knew there was a change in wind. So I put that in the equation too. And I tried to get him a lot of backwater where I found these fish that it didn't matter if the wind blew hard, didn't blow, blew north, blew south, blew east, blew west. It really didn't matter.
I got you. So, okay. And then on the final day, I'm assuming you just locked that worm in your hand and just went with it. And then what ended up happening? Like, when did you start to think, man, I've got a chance at walking away with this? Or did you even think that at all?
That's exactly what I said. So at about, it was a little bit after 9 o'clock, I had 15 pounds in the box. And by 10:45, I had the 19 pounds in the box. And I told my co-angler, I said, I'm not believing this. I got a shot at this thing. If they don't catch him on the lake, I got a good shot at this. And about 5 minutes later, I lost an 8-pounder. She might have went 9, but she was every bit of 8, and she got caught in one cattail. You know the deal with bass fishing. And by the time I got to her, all you can do is keep her pinned, and I kept her pinned, and I got probably 5 feet from her, and I saw all the other cattails go everywhere, and I was praying it wasn't her, and it was her. She took off. And I looked at my co-angler right then and there, and I said, that fish just cost me the win. So I just put my head down and kept fishing. I think I called one more time to get 19.11. I was probably right at 19. I called a couple ounces. I bet you I called 20 times that day for, hundreds of an ounce. It got so close. A lot of times I had to put it on the balance beam, not just the scale, to get it called correctly. And then I went to the scale, and when I pulled up to the dock and the camera guy came and took a couple pictures and said, what are you out? And I said, I got a little over 19. He said, that's the biggest bag I've heard. And that's when the walnut went in the gut.
That's what you don't tell me that.
Yeah.
And I mean, just so the listeners know, the final day of the tournament, you went into the final day. What place?
7th place. I was in 7th.
That's right. 7th place.
I was exactly 4 pounds out of the lead.
But the guy leading has won 2 Toyota Series events down here on Okeechobee. Brandon Medlock. If you've heard of the Medlock jig, that's where it came from. I'm sorry, but that's not who you want to have to try to chase down on the final day of Lake Okeechobee.
No, sir. And I named names to my co-angler. I said, Medlock, Hunter Law, Nick Honey, they're going to catch him. If those fish pull in, they're going to catch him, and they're going to catch him hard. And, those are the guys I was worried about when I went up to the scale. I knew Nick had a real good bag in front of me. We're buddies, and he showed me his bag, and I saw mine. I knew it was going to be real tight.
Oh, for sure. So, well, that's really cool, man. So, any last final thoughts on the tournament? Anybody you'd like to thank? Any of your sponsors, your family, anybody that supports you? And then I also want to know, what are you looking forward to for the rest of the season? What's your goals?
My goal is the top 25, the next 2. I mean, that's really my goal. Santee Cooper's next, and then the Harris chain, neither of which I fished. I know I live here in Florida, but I've never been to either. So I'm going to put my head down, and, top 25 is my goal. If I top 50, I'm okay with it. But, everybody wants to go in to win, and but the top 25 is my goal, and is it possible? Sure, anything's possible. When it's your time, and fishing, that's just the way it works.
Yeah.
But I honestly, there's obviously my Falcon boat, Mercury outboard, they got me to the spot. My Lowrance trolling motor, the Ghost that thing was insane. I was in less than a foot of water, and it was just as quiet as could be,
Wow.
And I had to run, I think my co-angler thought I was lost because I was zigzagging and back in these reed pockets, and the Lowrance, I could follow the track on the Lowrance and put me there. But the big thing, 2 of the big things were, the Bob's jack plate, so I didn't rip my gear case off, getting on plane and not having to idle for an hour to get out of there. And then, the biggest thing was the new bait fuel. Look for it. It's coming out in the spring by American Bait Works. I soaked all my big boppers, that big bopper by Net Bait in it, for a couple days pre-tournament. And I never had a fish grab the bait and spit it. Not one time, the whole entire tournament. So I'm a firm believer that had 100% to do with my tournament win this week.
Good for you. So, well, Rob, we wish you all the best of luck. Thank you for coming on with Vital Outdoors. I know we'll be probably talking to you again because you just seem very confident, and you're a hell of an angler, and I know we're going to be talking to you again. So good luck to you the rest of this year, and we'll be looking forward to watching you. Okay, buddy. I appreciate it much, and thank you guys for having me. Absolutely. From all of us at Vital Outdoors, you've been talking to Mr. Rob Branagh. He won, again, the Toyota Series on Lake Okeechobee this last weekend. Rob, thank you again for being on with us. I'm Theron Asbury. We wish everyone a safe time out on the water. Good luck out there to all the anglers. I know fishing season's upon us, and we appreciate everyone tuning into this podcast. We will talk to you soon.